knowing your team. Yeah, it goes right back to what we said is like understanding the strengths of people on your team. I would encourage every landman that's working in house on a job, anybody who's getting the opportunity to work on due diligence, you need to be an expert in Excel or strive to be. I work in it every day. I'm still like light years behind some of the people within our organization and even some of the clients that we work with. Their use of Excel, especially on these kind of in-house contracted consulting type jobs, is tremendous because you're either consolidating information from three different sources, from an Excel output, or you're taking an Excel, data dump from an acquisition that your client just made and trying to make sense of it, trying to pull information from client A, that, from a buyer and match it with a seller, whether you're doing a data management or an integration type project, whatever, just it doesn't go away. You can't avoid it. And the stronger you are in that, the more efficient you're going to be and the better product you're going to deliver, the more flexible you are, to be able to give your client or meet the needs of the specific job at that specific time for your client. Um, and if you can do that, you're going to continue to earn repeat opportunities. And that's again, it's going to keep you, if you're an independent or you're in one of these downtimes in the industry, or you're in between permanent, full-time roles, man, those things are just, they'll keep you going.
And the faster you can do that, the faster you can learn to manipulate data or organize data, because there's lots of you're dealing with thousands of lines of data at times, and you've got to find ways to organize it, track it. One of the things I've learned just in the last few years that I never did was, you get a batch of data and create your own unique identifier per line item. And so that hey, I'm starting, here's 10,000 lines of item, and I'm starting with number one, and I'm putting my own codes in there to number 10,000. And so that way, as long as you keep all your lines consistent, hey, here's my unique identifier of the data I got. And if you ever drop anything new in there, then you're going to be missing that code. And so as you start looking up things and you start comparing notes, doing either through VLOOKUP or from what other avenue of you do to compare various spreadsheets and stuff, you always know if you have something new pop up by that by that number. And that's something I never really thought of doing until probably just recently on projects over the last few years. And so something I learned from, a colleague. Like I said, I'm like you. I'm a I'm somewhat proficient in Excel, but I've got colleagues that are just leaps and bounds ahead of me that they're programming, they're doing macros, task macros in Excel, and that are beneficial. And again, as landman, and you mentioned this earlier, we're always working for um, the job and looking for the next job. But just because you get fast at something and you can accomplish something faster, all that does is give you credibility to do the next thing. And it pushes you along, and it gives you the credibility with clients to say, hey, I can give this to him. He and a team, if it's not just me, they can knock this out pretty quick. Or I know he will lead the team to knock this out in a time efficient. And so, you don't always want to worry about the length of time of the project. You want to make sure the project is quality, you're delivering a quality project, a quality product, and that your client gets what they're looking for. And like you said, if you can't accomplish all of the tasks in a given time or budget, which is very important, figure out the things you can do well and focus on getting those things, communicate that to the client and get that in. And, that brings up a whole different avenue of communication. Communication is vital across the spectrum. And we could probably have a whole nother podcast. We can touch on it here on communication, but, those are things that we really, you need to be good at, and communicating and understanding, communicating the data, communicating what your team is doing, communicating how far along you are in a project, um, communicating pitfalls or hurdles that you run into. Always keeping that open line of communication that with, both downstream and upstream. And the upstream part, again, I'll go back to is managing up, is keeping them people aware when needed. There are times when they don't need to be aware, but if it's vital, then and it's causing a delay in the project, or it's causing a concern in the project, then yeah, absolutely. You need to keep those channels of communication and information flowing between folks.